Chicago Memorial Hospital, night shift. It was just past midnight. Nurse Ria Chaudhary was updating her charts, sipping cold coffee. This 2-year-old single mother, who was raising her 7-year-old son Arjun alone, had been working double shifts for the past 3 months. Rent was overdue, her son's school fees were pending, and her mother's nursing home bills were piling up. But Ria never complained. She had learned long ago that life doesn't get easier just because you complain. She was a combat medic in Afghanistan for 3 years before her son was born. She had seen death up close, had held dying soldiers in her arms, had made life or death decisions in split seconds under enemy fire. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work, so if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. That night started like any other chaotic ER night. A car accident victim, 2 drug overdoses, an elderly man with chest pain. Routine, manageable, boring, even. Then the doors exploded open. 8 men in dark suits stormed into the ER like a military assault team. The lead man, tall and muscular with a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, raised a pistol toward the ceiling. He didn't fire, but the threat was clear. "Everybody stop." His voice boomed across the emergency room. Nobody moves. Nobody calls the cops. The ER fell silent, except for a baby crying in room 3. Ria's combat instincts kicked in immediately. She assessed the situation in seconds. 8 armed men, probably gang members, civilians frozen in fear, no immediate escape route. 2 more men pushed through the entrance, carrying a 3rd man between them. The injured man's expensive suit was soaked black with blood. His head lolled forward, unconscious, shoes dragging across the floor leaving wet red streaks. Dr. Morrison, the attending physician, stepped forward with his hands raised. "Sir, we need to—" "Shut up," the scarred man interrupted. "Your best surgeon." "Now, I'm the trauma surgeon on duty," Morrison said, his voice steady despite trembling fingers. "We'll take him to—" "You've got 3 gunshot wounds," the lieutenant barked. "Chest, abdomen, shoulder. He's been bleeding for 22 minutes. If he dies, everyone in this room dies with him, starting with you, doctor." Ria felt her pulse shift into combat tempo. This was Kandahar again. This was Helmand Province. This was the forward operating base where she'd earned her trauma certification with mortar rounds whistling overhead. The men hauled their boss onto a gurney. Up close, Ria could see he was younger than expected, maybe 35, with sharp features going pale beneath olive skin. His breathing was shallow, rapid. "Critical condition, doctor." Morrison approached, and Ria saw his hands shaking as he checked the man's pulse. "Pulse is thready," Morrison announced. "BP is dropping. We need to get him to OR immediately. Start transfusions." "How long?" the lieutenant demanded. "Prep time, anesthesia, surgical setup, 15 minutes minimum," the heart monitor screamed. The injured man's vitals crashed, the rhythmic beeping dissolving into a continuous wail. He was coding. Morrison froze for 1 terrible second. The lieutenant raised his gun. "Save him." And Ria moved. She didn't think. Thinking got soldiers killed. She pushed past Morrison, her fingers already finding the man's carotid, confirming what the monitor screamed. No pulse. She ripped open his shirt, buttons scattering like shrapnel. "Chest tube tray." She snapped at Jenny, the wide-eyed resident. "Thoracotomy kit. Crash cart. Move." "Lucia, what are you?" Morrison started. "He's got a hemothorax compressing his heart. Maybe worse. If we don't open him up right here, right now, he's dead in 2 minutes." She looked up at the lieutenant, meeting those cold eyes without flinching. "I can do this, but I need everyone to shut up and do exactly what I say." The lieutenant studied her for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then he nodded once. Ria's training took over. Her hands became instruments of precision, moving with the muscle memory of 100 battlefield surgeries where sterile environment meant under a tarp while taking enemy fire. "Jenny, glove me." "Morrison, bag him. Keep oxygen flowing." She pointed at the youngest suited man who looked barely 20. "You hold this light steady or he dies." Ria made the incision, a swift, decisive cut between the ribs. Blood welled up and she heard Morrison gasp, but her hands never wavered. She spread the ribs with the retractor, exposing the chest cavity. There the left lung was collapsed, blood filling the pleural space. But worse, she could see the pericardium bulging, distended with blood, cardiac tamponade. The heart couldn't beat because it was drowning in its own blood. "Suction," she ordered. Jenny complied, trembling but steady. Ria made a window in the pericardium. Blood gushed out, and suddenly the heart, that beautiful, stubborn muscle, began to beat again. Weak, but beating. The monitor's scream changed to a beep. Slow, irregular, but alive. "Jesus Christ," Morrison whispered. Ria worked quickly, locating the bleeding vessels, clamping them. Her fingers were inside a human chest cavity in the middle of an ER, with a gun pointed at her back, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Transfusion O negative, 4 units. Start antibiotics. And for God's sake, somebody get an OR prepped so we can close him up properly." The ER erupted into controlled chaos. Nurses running, equipment wheeling, Morrison shouting orders into the phone. Ria stepped back, her gloves slick with blood. The man on the gurney, whoever he was, whatever he'd done, would live. At least for now. The lieutenant lowered his gun. He stared at Ria with something that might have been respect, or might have been the first stirrings of fear. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Ria Chowdhury. He's going to want to thank you." The lieutenant's scarred face revealed nothing. "My name is Rico, and you just saved the life of Matteo Romano." The name meant nothing to Ria, but the way every nurse in the ER suddenly went still told her everything she needed to know. She'd just saved Chicago's most feared Mafia boss. And in doing so, she'd stepped into a world where debts were paid in blood. By 4 a.m., the ICU had become a fortress. Matteo Romano occupied the entire West Wing, all 6 rooms cleared of patients, relocated to other floors with mumbled excuses about plumbing issues. Armed men stood at every entrance, their suits doing little to conceal the weapons underneath. They didn't bother with subtlety. They didn't need to. Ria finished her shift notes in the nurse's station, trying to ignore the 2 guards flanking the doorway. Her hands were steady now, the adrenaline crash still hours away. Rico appeared beside her desk without sound, and Ria hated how she flinched. "I need to finish these charts," Ria said, not looking up. "You need to answer my questions." It wasn't a request. Rico pulled up a chair, sitting too close, invading her space with deliberate intent. Intimidation, 101. Ria had dealt with aggressive soldiers, hostile locals, and one particularly unpleasant colonel who thought female medics were secretaries with first aid training. She met Rico's stare. "Ask, where did you learn to do that? That surgery? Army combat medic. 3 tours in Afghanistan. Why aren't you still in? I had a son." He needed a mother, not a folded flag. Rico's expression didn't change. "You have family in Chicago?" "Just my son, Arjun. He's 7. The father, ex-husband. We share custody." Ria set down her pen, letting irritation creep into her voice. "Is there a point to this interrogation, or are you just naturally nosy?" A muscle twitched in Rico's jaw. "Not used to pushback, then." "Good. Mr. Romano doesn't get shot by accident," Rico said softly. "Someone inside his organization set him up. Someone who knew his schedule, his route, his security detail. And you think I'm that someone?" Ria's voice was incredulous. "I didn't even know who he was until you said his name." "Convenient. No, it's called not being a criminal." Ria stood, gathering her charts. "I'm a nurse. I save lives. It's literally my job. If you want to waste time suspecting me, that's your problem." "Now, if you'll excuse me," Rico's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to stop her. "You don't walk away when I'm talking." The ICU fell silent. Every nurse, every orderly, everyone pretending not to watch, suddenly found somewhere else to be. "Let go," Ria said quietly. "You don't understand what you've stepped into, what you've become part of by saving him. I understand perfectly. You're scared. Your boss almost died on your watch, and now you're scrambling to find someone to blame. But you're barking up the wrong tree." Ria pulled her wrist free, and Rico let her. "I did my job. That's all." She turned to leave and nearly collided with Dr. Morrison and 2 men in expensive suits, hospital administrators, judging by the panicked energy radiating off them. "Nurse Chowdhury," the taller one said, his smile strained. "I'm Richard Voss, hospital director. We need to discuss the situation." "There's nothing to discuss. I performed emergency surgery. The patient is stable." "You performed an unsanctioned thoracotomy in the ER," Voss said, sweat beading on his upper lip. Without proper authorization. Without it, your patient would be dead. Ria kept her voice level. Would you prefer that outcome, Mr. Voss? A commotion erupted from room 3. Medical equipment beeped urgently and nurses rushed toward the sound. Ria moved on instinct, pushing past the administrators, past Rico, through the door where Matteo Romano lay fighting his way to consciousness. His eyes snapped open, dark, intense, dilated with pain and morphine. He tried to sit up and 3 different monitors shrieked in protest. His hand went to his chest, finding bandages instead of the wound he expected. Sir, you need to stay down, Jenny urged. You've had major surgery. Matteo's gaze swept the room, cataloging threats, calculating odds, until his eyes locked on Ria. The room froze. Matteo Romano stared at the woman who'd reached into his chest and refused to let death take him. Ria stared back, refusing to look away first, refusing to show the fear that any sane person should feel. His voice came out rough, scraped raw. You, me, Ria confirmed. And you're going to lie back down before you tear your stitches. Something flickered in Matteo's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or amusement. Men like him weren't used to being ordered around, especially not by women. Especially not by women covered in his blood. Rico stepped forward. Sir, we need to move you. The hospital wants... No. Matteo's attention never left Ria. What's her name? Ria Chaudhry. Ria Chaudhry, he repeated, tasting the syllables. Then to Rico, still without breaking eye contact. No one touches her. She's under my protection now. Anyone lays a hand on her, they answer to me. Understood? Rico's jaw clenched. Understood, sir. Matteo's eyes finally closed, exhaustion pulling him back under. But before the morphine took him, he murmured something that made every guard in the room straighten. She saved my life. That means something. Ria stood frozen as medical staff rushed to check Matteo's vitals. Behind her, she heard Voss whispering urgently about police involvement and media exposure and liability. Rico brushed past her, his voice low enough only she could hear. Protection isn't a gift, Miss Chaudhry. It's a leash. Then he was gone, barking orders to his men, transforming the ICU back into a war room. Ria looked at her hands, scrubbed clean now, but she could still feel the ghost of Matteo's heartbeat against her fingers. She'd saved his life, and now somehow he thought he owned hers. Call to action #2. What do you think Ria should do now? Should she accept the Mafia boss's protection, or try to escape from this dangerous situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying this story so far. The October morning was cold enough that Ria could see her breath. She pulled her jacket tighter, crossing the hospital parking lot toward her 10-year-old Honda. 6 a.m. Arjun would be waking up soon at his father's place, getting ready for school. She'd promised to pick him up after soccer practice, maybe grab pizza, normal things, safe things. A black sedan blocked her car. 2 people leaned against it, a woman in a charcoal pantsuit and a man in a leather jacket that had seen better days. They had that unmistakable look, cops trying not to look like cops, which made them look exactly like cops. Ria's stomach dropped. Ria Chaudhry? The woman pushed off the sedan, holding up a badge. Detective Sarah Brennan, Chicago PD. This is my partner, Detective Miguel Ortiz. We need to talk. I just worked a 12-hour shift, Ria said. Whatever this is, it's about Matteo Romano. Ortiz had kind eyes, which somehow made him more dangerous. The nice cop. The one who made you think talking was safe. We know what you did last night. I saved a patient's life. That's my job. Your job is to report gunshot wounds, Brennan said. She was all edges, sharp cheekbones, sharper voice. Federal law requires medical professionals to notify police of any gunshot injuries. You didn't call us. His people made sure nobody did. Ria's hands tightened on her bag strap. I was busy keeping him alive. Call the hospital administration if you want to file a complaint. We're not here to file a complaint. Ortiz smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We're here to offer you an opportunity. I don't want opportunities. I want to go home. Matteo Romano runs the largest organized crime syndicate in Chicago, Brennan said, circling slowly. Predator instincts. Drug trafficking, extortion, murder for hire. We've been trying to build a case against him for 3 years. And now you, she gestured at Ria. You've got access we'd kill for. The parking lot suddenly felt very empty, very exposed. I don't have access to anything, Ria said carefully. I treated him. He's in ICU. That's it. That's not it. Brennan pulled out her phone, swiping to a photo. Security camera footage from the hospital. Matteo's hand reaching for Ria's wrist. Rico leaning close, whispering, "He put you under his protection. Do you know what that means?" "It means he's grateful. It means you're in." Ortiz stepped closer, voice dropping. "Whether you want to be or not. His people will watch you, trust you, talk around you. You could be our eyes and ears inside his organization." Ria laughed, a short bitter sound. "You want me to spy on the Mafia? The same Mafia that has armed guards outside his hospital room? The same Mafia that threatened to kill everyone in the ER if he died? We can protect you," Brennan said. "Like you protected him? He got shot 3 times. Brennan's expression hardened. "Work with us, or we'll make your life very difficult." "Is that a threat, detective?" "It's a reality check." Brennan put her phone away. "You have a son, right? Arjun Chowdhury, 7 years old, attends Riverside Elementary. Custody arrangement with your ex-husband, Rohan Sharma." Ice flooded Ria's veins. We're not threatening your son," Ortiz said quickly, shooting Brennan a warning look. "But think about it. How long before Romano's enemies find out you saved him? How long before they decide your leverage? You think your custody arrangement survives when CPS learns you're associating with organized crime?" "I'm not associating with—" "You think a judge sees it that way?" Brennan leaned in. "Single mother, working night shifts, now under the protection of a known criminal. Rohan could argue you're exposing Arjun to danger. Hell, he'd be right." The words hit like bullets. Ria had fought tooth and nail for 50-50 custody after the divorce. Rohan had tried everything, claiming she was unstable, that her PTSD from Afghanistan made her unfit, that Arjun needed a stable home environment. Only her spotless work record and character witnesses had saved her. And now these detectives were threatening to destroy it all. "You can't do this," Ria whispered. "We don't want to." Ortiz's voice was gentle, almost apologetic. "We want Romano. You help us get him. We make sure your custody stays intact. We make sure CPS never gets a call about concerns regarding the mother's associations." Brennan pulled out a business card, pressing it into Ria's hand. "You have 48 hours to think about it. After that, we start making official inquiries. Hospital records, background, checks, the kind of paperwork that ends up in family court. This is blackmail. This is justice." Brennan's smile was cold. "Romano has killed people, Ria. Destroyed families. You really want to protect him?" "I want to protect my son." "Then help us." Ortiz opened the sedan door. "Call that number when you're ready to do the right thing." They drove away, leaving Ria standing alone in the parking lot, the business card burning in her palm. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rohan. "Running late. Can you pick up Arjun from school instead of practice? Need to talk about some things." The timing couldn't be coincidence. Ria looked back at the hospital, where armed men guarded a Mafia boss who thought he owned her loyalty. Then down at the card, where detectives wanted to turn her into a spy. And somewhere in between, her 7-year-old son was the bargaining chip everyone wanted to play. She'd thought saving Matteo Romano would be the hard part. She'd been wrong. Ria picked up Arjun at 3:15 p.m., her eyes gritty from lack of sleep. He bounced out of Riverside Elementary with his backpack hanging off one shoulder, soccer ball tucked under his arm, gap-toothed smile making her heart ache. "Mom, guess what? I scored 2 goals at recess." She hugged him tight, breathing in the kid smell of grass stains and grape juice. "That's my champion. Dad says I'm getting really good. He says maybe I should practice more at his house." Arjun's voice carried that careful neutrality kids learn when their parents are divorced, testing waters, choosing words. "You practice plenty, baby." Ria buckled him into the back seat. "How about ice cream before dinner?" "Dad says sugar before dinner is bad." Of course he did. Rohan had opinions about everything she did. Her parenting, her job, her life. The divorce was 2 years old, but his criticism felt fresh every time Arjun parroted it back. Her phone rang as they pulled out of the school parking lot. Unknown number. "Hello? Miss Chowdhury. This is Patricia Knowles from Knowles Family Law. I represented you in your custody arrangement." Ria's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes, I remember. We need to meet today if possible. Something's come up." The professional worry in Patricia's voice made Ria's stomach clench. What happened? Not over the phone. Can you come to my office at 5? I know it's short notice, but this is time sensitive. Ria glanced at Arjun in the rearview mirror, absorbed in his iPad. I'll be there. Patricia Knowles had an office in a renovated brownstone in Lincoln Park. The kind of place that charged by the minute and made you feel it. Ria left Arjun with her neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, promising she'd only be an hour. She was walking into a trap. She knew it, but knowing didn't help. Patricia was 50-something with steel-gray hair, and the exhausted efficiency of someone who'd seen every dirty divorce trick in the book. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. Rohan filed an emergency motion this morning. She slid a stack of papers across her desk. He's requesting a modification to your custody arrangement. He wants full custody with supervised visitation for you. The room tilted. What? On what grounds? He's claiming you're exposing Arjun to dangerous criminal elements. That your work environment has become unsafe. Patricia tapped the document. Specifically, he mentions your involvement with Matteo Romano. There it was, the hammer dropping. How does he even know about that? Ria's voice came out strangled. It happened less than 24 hours ago. It hasn't been in the news, someone told him. Patricia's expression was grim. Someone with access to hospital records or police reports. And they told him fast. The detectives. It had to be. Brennan's threat wasn't hypothetical. It was already in motion. I treated a patient, Ria said desperately. That's all. I didn't know who he was. I was doing my job. Different picture. Patricia read from the motion. The mother has willingly involved herself with known organized crime figures, placing herself and by extension the minor child in direct danger. Armed criminals have been observed near the mother's workplace. The mother has shown reckless disregard for the child's safety and well-being. That's insane. I'm trying to protect Arjun from all this. It doesn't matter if it's insane. It matters if a judge believes it. Patricia leaned forward. Ria, I need you to be completely honest with me. Are you involved with Matteo Romano beyond treating him as a patient? No. Are his people watching you? Ria thought of the black SUVs she'd noticed near her apartment that morning, the suited man lingering outside the coffee shop where she'd grabbed breakfast. I think so. But I didn't ask for that. It doesn't matter if you asked. Perception is reality in family court. Patricia pulled out another document. There's more. Rohan is also claiming you have PTSD from your military service that you failed to properly manage, that you're working excessive hours, that Arjun has mentioned being scared when you have nightmares. The betrayal cut deep. Arjun had climbed into her bed one night last month after she'd woken screaming from a dream about Kandahar. She'd held him, explained that sometimes Mommy's brain remembered scary things, promised him she was okay. He'd fallen back asleep in her arms, and Rohan had used it as ammunition. He's twisting everything, Ria whispered. He's building a case. And frankly, with this Romano situation added on top, he's got a decent shot. Patricia's voice softened. I need to ask, is there any possibility this timing is connected? The shooting happens, you save Romano, and within 24 hours your ex-husband knows about it and files for emergency custody? Ria's mind raced. The detectives showing up this morning. Their threats about CPS. Rohan's sudden motion. The speed of it all. Someone set this up, she said slowly. Someone wanted me squeezed from both sides. Who would want that? I don't know. But everyone seems very interested in making sure I cooperate with something. Ria stood, pacing. The police want me to inform on Romano. His people are watching me to make sure I'm protected. And now my ex-husband, who barely wanted 50-50 custody during the divorce, suddenly wants Arjun full-time. The same day. Patricia was quiet for a moment. If you're right, if someone is orchestrating this, then they've picked the perfect pressure point. Your son. What do I do? Short term, we fight the motion. I'll argue it's retaliatory and unfounded. But Ria. Patricia's expression was sympathetic and terrifying at once. You need to distance yourself from anything involving Matteo Romano. Any connection to organized crime, no matter how innocent, will destroy your custody case. One whiff of criminal association and you lose Arjun. Do you understand? Ria nodded, though understanding didn't help. How could she distance herself when Romano had declared her protected, when his enemies might already see her as a target? when detectives were threatening to manufacture evidence if she didn't cooperate. She was drowning, and everyone was holding her head underwater. The hearing is in 5 days. Patricia said, "Stay clean. Stay away from anything that looks bad. And for God's sake, if the police contact you again, call me first." Ria drove home in a daze. When she picked up Arjun from Mrs. Rodriguez, he was quiet, sensing her mood the way kids do. "Mom, are you and Dad fighting again?" "No, baby. Everything's fine." But Arjun was 7. Not stupid. He squeezed her hand. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll tell the judge I want to live with you." And that nearly broke her. This poor mother is trapped with no way out. Her ex-husband is trying to take away her son. The police are blackmailing her. And a dangerous mafia boss thinks he owns her. If you're feeling emotional about Ria's situation, drop a heart emoji in the comments. And if you want to know what happens next, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because this story is about to get even more intense. 2 days after the shooting, Ria returned to work for a regular shift. She had requested a different floor anywhere but ICU, but the hospital was short-staffed. Morrison had looked at her with apologetic eyes and assigned her to the cardiac unit, right next to where Matteo Romano was recovering. She avoided his room, checked on other patients, updated charts, helped an elderly woman with her medications. Anything to stay away from the West Wing where armed men still stood guard. It didn't work. Nurse Chaudhry. Rico appeared in the hallway, his presence like a cold draft. "Mr. Romano is asking for you." "I'm busy," he insists. "Tell him I'm not his personal nurse. There's a whole staff." "He insists," Rico repeated. And this time there was steel beneath the words. "Unless you'd like me to bring him down here in his condition." Ria set down the medication tray harder than necessary. 5 minutes. He'll be grateful. Matteo's room had been transformed, the standard hospital bed replaced with something larger, more comfortable. Fresh flowers on the windowsill, expensive ones, not bodega bouquets. A laptop on the side table, quietly playing what sounded like opera. The mafia boss sat propped against pillows, still pale but significantly improved. His dark eyes tracked her as she entered, and she hated how aware she became of his attention. "Miss Chaudhry?" His voice was stronger now. "Please, sit. I'm working." 5 minutes. You said as much to Rico. The corner of his mouth lifted. "I heard you in the hallway. You're not quiet when you're angry." Despite herself, Ria felt heat creep up her neck. "What do you want, Mr. Romano?" "Matteo," he gestured to the chair beside his bed. "Please, I don't bite. Your men threatened to kill everyone in the ER if you died. Forgive me if I don't trust your gentle nature." That earned an actual smile. "Fair point, but I'm not going to hurt you. I wanted to thank you properly. You already had Rico tell me I'm protected. Thanks received." "That's not a thank you. That's a necessity." Matteo shifted slightly, wincing. "You saved my life in a way that was impressive, terrifying, also impressive. Where did you learn to do that?" "Army combat medic. Afghanistan. You've seen war. Different kind than yours. Not so different." Matteo's expression grew thoughtful. "You make decisions under pressure. Life or death in seconds. You don't hesitate. Is there a point to this conversation?" "The point is gratitude." He reached for something on the side table. A manila envelope, thick with papers. "I want to offer you compensation. $400,000, tax-free. Consider it a consulting fee." Ria stared at the envelope like it might explode. "No, it's not charity. You earned it. I don't want money from the Mafia. From a grateful patient, then." "No." Ria crossed her arms. "I don't want anything from you, Mr. Romano. I did my job. You're alive. That's enough." Matteo studied her with those unsettling dark eyes. "You're in danger because you saved me. My enemies will come after you to hurt me. The money would help you relocate. Protect your son. How do you know about my son?" Ria's voice went cold. "I know about the custody hearing, about your ex-husband's sudden motion, about the detectives who cornered you in the parking lot." Matteo set the envelope aside. "I make it my business to know about people who matter. I don't matter to you. I'm a nurse who happened to be working that night. You matter because you saved my life. In my world, that creates a debt." Matteo's tone was patient, explaining something he considered obvious. "I pay my debts. Then consider it paid. We're even. Done. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works. Ria leaned forward, meeting his gaze directly. I don't want your money. I don't want your protection. I don't want anything that ties me to your world. I have a son to think about, a custody battle to win, and associating with you makes all of that impossible. So thank you for the offer, but no. Silence stretched between them. Outside, a heart monitor beeped steadily. Someone laughed down the hallway. Normal hospital sounds from an abnormal situation. I respect that, Matteo said finally. You're trying to keep your son safe. I understand. But my protection isn't optional. It's already in place. My enemies don't care that you want distance. They'll come anyway. Then tell your men to leave me alone. I can't do that. Not until the threat is neutralized. How long will that take? However long it takes to find who ordered my assassination. Matteo's expression hardened. Someone close to me. Someone I trusted. And when I find them, they'll wish they'd succeeded in killing me. The casual violence in his voice sent ice down Ria's spine. This was the real Matteo Romano, not the grateful patient, but the man who'd built an empire on fear. She stood. I need to get back to work. Ria. He stopped her with just her name. I know what the police want from you, what they've threatened. And I know what your ex-husband is trying to do. How? Because I've been where you are. Trapped between bad choices. Matteo's eyes were steady, sincere in a way that felt more dangerous than his threats. You don't have to choose. Not yet. Just be careful. Trust is currency in my world. And right now, you're one of 3 people I trust. Who are the other 2? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That's the problem. I'm not entirely sure. After Ria left, Rico entered the room. He'd been listening, of course. Always listening. She refused the money, Rico said. Yes. She wants nothing to do with us. Yes. So why keep protecting her? Matteo was quiet for a moment, staring at where Ria had stood. Because she's genuine. In a world of lies, she told me no. Do you know how rare that is? Rico's jaw tightened. She's a liability. She knows nothing, owes us nothing, and creates complications we don't need. She saved my life. So you've said multiple times. Rico's voice carried an edge. But sentiment doesn't keep you alive, Matteo. Strategy does. She's a loose end. She's under my protection. That's final. After Rico left, his displeasure evident in every rigid line of his shoulders, Matteo made a call. Watch her, he instructed. Close, but not obvious. And find out who leaked information to her ex-husband. Someone's playing games, and I want to know who. He hung up and stared at the manila envelope full of cash that Ria Chaudhry had refused without hesitation. In his entire life, no one had ever said no to Matteo Romano's money. It was, he realized, the most interesting thing that had happened to him in years. Matteo Romano is falling for this brave nurse who keeps refusing him. But with enemies closing in, Rico acting suspicious, and Ria's custody battle getting worse, can this impossible connection survive? Comment Team Ria if you're rooting for her, or Team Matteo if you think he can protect her. And don't go anywhere, the next part is where everything explodes. The black Escalade appeared on Tuesday. Ria noticed it parked across from her apartment building when she left for her shift, still there when she returned home at dawn. Wednesday, a different vehicle, a black Lexus sedan idled near Arjun's school during pickup. She told herself it was Matteo's protection. Annoying, but harmless. Thursday night changed everything. Ria finished her shift at 11 p.m. Exhausted from a brutal emergency that had kept her 3 hours past clock out. The parking garage was nearly empty, fluorescent lights humming overhead, casting sickly yellow shadows. Her Honda sat in its usual spot, on level 3. She clicked the key fob, heard the locks disengage, reached for the door handle. Another car's engine roared to life. Ria spun. A dark SUV, not one of Matteo's, something older, dented, accelerated toward her from the far end of the garage. No headlights, just engine and speed. Training kicked in. She dove between 2 parked cars as the SUV screamed past, close enough that the side mirror clipped her jacket. Brakes squealed. The vehicle spun around for another pass. Ria ran. She sprinted toward the stairwell, keys clutched like a weapon, heart hammering. The SUV's engine growled behind her, getting closer. She wasn't going to make it. 2 gunshots cracked through the garage. The SUV swerved violently, one tire exploding. It crashed into a concrete pillar with a sickening crunch of metal. Ria hit the ground, arms over her head, as the world erupted into chaos. More gunshots, returned fire, the sound bouncing off concrete walls until she couldn't tell which direction it came from. She crawled behind a pickup truck, making herself small, breathing through her nose to stay quiet. This was Kandahar again. This was mortars and ambushes, and the particular terror of not knowing where the enemy was. Get her out of here. A man's voice. Familiar. Rico. Then he was there, pulling her up by the arm, shoving her toward another figure in a dark suit. Go with Marco. Now. What's happening? They came for you. Rico fired 3 more shots toward the crashed SUV. Move. Marco, younger, scared, but following orders, grabbed Ria's hand and ran. They burst through the stairwell door, took the stairs 3 at a time, emerged into the night air where yet another black Escalade waited, engine running. Get in. Ria didn't argue. She dove into the back seat. Marco jumped in beside her. The driver, a woman with a blonde ponytail and cold efficiency, hit the gas before the door fully closed. They peeled out of the hospital complex, doing 60 in a 30 zone. Are you hurt? Marco checked her over with frantic eyes. Did they touch you? No, I'm fine. What, who are they? Salvatore crew? The driver said, eyes on the rearview mirror. They've been trying to find weak spots since the boss got hit. Congratulations. You're officially a weak spot. Ria's stomach dropped. They were trying to kidnap me? Probably kill you, actually, Marco said apologetically. Kidnapping's too much work. But either way, leverage against Mr. Romano. I barely know him. Doesn't matter. He put you under protection. That means you matter to him. That makes you a target. The driver took a corner fast enough to make the tires squeal. I'm Sophia, by the way. Try not to throw up in my car. Ria's phone rang. She pulled it from her pocket with shaking hands. Ria, are you hurt? Matteo's voice was tight with controlled fury. No, your people got there in time. Good. Sophia is taking you to a safe location. You'll stay there tonight. No. I need to get Arjun. Already done. Marco's brother picked him up from your ex-husband's place 20 minutes ago. They're meeting you at the apartment. Ice flooded Ria's veins. You took my son? I protected your son, Matteo corrected. The same people who came for you know where he lives. They know his school schedule. They know everything. Would you prefer I left him exposed? Ria wanted to scream. To throw the phone. To somehow reach through it and strangle this man who'd turned her entire life into a war zone. You had no right. I had every right. You're under my protection, whether you want it or not. That extends to Arjun. His voice softened slightly. Ria, I know you're angry. Be angry. But be angry and alive. Those men would have killed you tonight to hurt me. This isn't a game. I never asked for this. No. You asked to save my life. These are the consequences. The line went dead. Sophia pulled up to a building in River North. Expensive, modern, the kind of place with doormen and security cameras everywhere. She led Ria through a private entrance, up an elevator that required a key card, into a penthouse apartment that probably cost more per month than Ria made in a year. Arjun sat on the leather couch, clutching his backpack, looking small and scared. A kind-faced man in his 40s sat nearby Marco's brother, presumably trying to make conversation about soccer. Mom! Ethan launched himself at her. Ria caught him, holding tight, feeling his heartbeat against hers. I'm here, baby. I've got you. They said there was an emergency, that you needed me. I got scared. I know. I'm sorry. She pulled back, checking him over. No injuries. Just fear. We're safe now. Why are we here? Whose house is this? Good question. Ria looked at Sophia, who shrugged. Safe house. Belongs to Mr. Romano's organization. You'll stay here until the threat is neutralized. How long will that take? Depends how fast the boss finds who's trying to kill him. Sophia handed Ria a phone new, pre-programmed. Your number's compromised. Use this. Food's in the kitchen. Building security is ours. Don't leave without telling us first. This is kidnapping. This is protection. Sophia's expression was sympathetic but firm. I know it doesn't feel like a favor, but those men in the garage? They were going to put a bullet in your head and dump you in the Chicago River. This? She gestured around the luxury apartment. This is keeping you alive. After Sophia and the others left, Ria stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights. Behind her, Arjun had found the TV and was watching cartoons, his fear already fading the way kids' fears do when adults pretend everything's fine. But nothing was fine. She was trapped in a gilded cage, protected by the very people whose world had made her a target. Her son had been swept up in Mafia business. Somewhere out there, people wanted her dead. And Matteo Romano, the man she'd saved, now controlled every aspect of her life. Her phone, the new one, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're welcome." And Ria almost threw it across the room. 3 days in the safe house felt like 3 weeks. Arjun adjusted faster than Ria. He thought the penthouse was cool, made friends with the guards who taught him card tricks, treated the whole thing like an adventure. Kids were resilient that way. Or maybe just oblivious. Ria spent the time pacing, making calls to Patricia about the custody hearing, avoiding the news coverage of gang violence near Chicago Memorial Hospital. They were calling it a turf war, close enough to the truth. On the 4th night, Marco knocked on the door at 11 p.m. "Mr. Romano wants to see you." "Now?" "It's almost midnight. He's having complications, chest pains. Won't let anyone treat him except you." Marco looked apologetic. "He's insistent." Ria glanced back at Arjun, asleep in the guest bedroom. "I can't leave him. Sophia's here. She's got 3 kids of her own. He'll be safe." 20 minutes later, Ria sat in the back of an Escalade, watching the city blur past. They drove north into Evanston, then beyond, into estate country where properties had gates and privacy, and enough land that neighbors couldn't hear gunshots. Matteo's home was exactly what she expected. Sprawling, modern, expensive in a way that whispered rather than shouted. Security cameras everywhere, guards at every entrance. They led her through marble hallways to a study on the 2nd floor, dark wood, leather furniture, walls lined with books that looked actually read. A fire crackled in the fireplace despite the mild October evening. Matteo sat in a high-back chair, laptop open, looking pale but composed. Rico stood near the window. 2 other men she didn't recognize occupied the other chairs, older, expensive suits, the kind of men who made decisions that destroyed lives. "Gentlemen, give us the room," Matteo said when Ria entered. Rico's jaw tightened. "Sir, we haven't finished. We'll continue later." "Leave us." The men filed out, Rico last, throwing Ria a look that promised violence if she stepped wrong. The door closed with a heavy click. "You said you had chest pains," Ria said. "I lied." Matteo closed the laptop. "I needed an excuse to bring you here that Rico wouldn't question. Have a seat." "I don't want to sit. I want to go back to my son. In a moment. First, we need to talk." Matteo stood, moving carefully, one hand pressed to his ribs. The attack at the hospital wasn't random. The Salvatore crew doesn't move without orders from higher up. "I figured that much out. What you don't know is why." He crossed to a cabinet, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, offered her one. She refused. He shrugged and drank both. "Someone in my organization set me up. Someone close enough to know my schedule, my route, my security detail. They gave that information to my enemies. Why tell me this? Because you're caught in the middle of it. And because—" Matteo paused, choosing words carefully. "I trust fewer people than fingers on one hand. You just became one of them." Ria laughed bitterly. "You don't know me. I know you refused $400,000. I know you saved my life twice now, once on the operating table, once by noticing those men in the garage before they killed you. I know you're honest in a world where honesty gets people killed." He met her eyes. "That's more than I know about men I've worked with for years. That's insane. That's survival." Matteo returned to his chair, wincing. "There's a traitor in my organization. Someone high up. Someone who wants me dead badly enough to risk war with the families. And you think I can help with that? Because you're outside it. You see things my people don't." He gestured to the chair again. "Please, I'm recovering from being shot. Looking up at you is hell on my neck." Against her better judgment, Ria sat. "I'm playing weak," Matteo continued. "Slower to recover than I actually am. More vulnerable. I need whoever ordered the hit to think they've damaged me enough to make another move. You're using yourself as bait. I'm smoking them out. But I need someone I trust watching, listening, someone who wouldn't normally be in these conversations. I'm a nurse, not a spy. Exactly. No one suspects the medical staff. Matteo leaned forward. I'm not asking you to inform on me to the police. I'm asking you to help me find the person who's trying to kill me. The same person whose associates tried to kill you. Ria's mind raced. This was insane. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse, to demand he take her back to the safe house, to somehow extract herself and Arjun from this nightmare. But Matteo was right about one thing. Someone had tried to kill her. And until that person was caught, she and Arjun were targets. What exactly are you asking me to do? Stay close. When I need medical attention, and I will, I'm legitimately not fully healed, you provide it. Watch my people. Listen to what they say around you. Medical staff are invisible in my world. They see and hear everything. You want me to spy on your own organization. I want you to help me survive. There's a difference. Before Ria could respond, voices erupted in the hallway, raised, angry. She recognized Rico's tone, sharp, defensive. Can't keep making decisions based on sentiment. Watch your tone. Another man's voice. He's still your boss. For how long? He's weak, distracted. That nurse has him. The door opened suddenly. Rico stopped mid-sentence, his eyes going wide as he saw Ria sitting in the study. For 3 terrible seconds, nobody moved. Then Matteo laughed. Cold, dangerous. Please, Rico, continue. I'm fascinated to hear what my second-in-command really thinks. Rico's face drained of color. Sir, you didn't mean for me to hear? Or you didn't mean to question my judgment? Matteo's voice could have cut glass, because it sounded very much like you were discussing my fitness to lead. The older man who'd followed Rico the consigliere. Ria realized, recognizing him from earlier, stepped forward smoothly. A misunderstanding. Rico was simply expressing concern for your health. We all want you fully recovered. Of course. Matteo's smile never reached his eyes. My health. How thoughtful. Rico's hand flexed at his side, unconscious tell, reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Ria saw it. And from the slight narrowing of Matteo's eyes, he saw it too. We'll finish this conversation tomorrow, Matteo said. When I'm feeling stronger. You're dismissed. After they left, the silence in the study was deafening. You see now, Matteo said quietly, why I need someone I can trust. Ria's mouth was dry. Rico. You think it's Rico? Rico, or someone close to him, or someone using him. Matteo stared at the closed door. I've known him 10 years. He saved my life twice, and now I can't be certain he won't be the one to end it. What will you do? Find proof. Then handle it. He turned to her, and for the first time, Ria saw something other than the calculating crime boss. She saw exhaustion, fear, loneliness. Will you help me? Every rational thought told her to refuse. To grab Arjun and disappear, consequences be damned. But she thought of the men in the parking garage, the custody battle, the detective's threats. She was already drowning in this world. The only question was whether she'd drown alone or with allies. I'll watch, Ria said finally. I'll listen, but I won't lie. I won't plant evidence. And if anyone asks me directly, I won't cover for you. Fair enough. And when this is over, when you find your traitor, you let me and Arjun go. No more protection, no more guards. We disappear from your world. Matteo was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. You have my word. They shook hands, hers small and steady, his warm and calloused. Ria had made a deal with the devil. She could only hope she'd live long enough to regret it. Rico is the traitor. But wait, is he acting alone? Or is someone even more dangerous pulling the strings? And can Ria really trust Matteo to let her go when this is all over? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if you've made it this far in the story, you're amazing. Hit that like button, and let's get to the explosive finale. The trap was set for Friday afternoon. A phantom shipment worth $5 million, supposedly arriving at a Newark warehouse with minimal security. Only Rico knew the details: location, time, cargo manifest. Everything designed to be irresistible to the Salvatore crew. If Rico was the traitor, they'd come. Ria wasn't supposed to be there. Matteo had been explicit. She would stay at the safe house with double security while he handled the confrontation. But Ria had spent her whole life being told what she couldn't do, where she couldn't go. She'd stopped listening years ago. She borrowed clothes from one of the estate guards, dark pants, black jacket, boots that actually fit, slipped out during the shift change when the new guards were still getting briefed, made it to the service road, and called the one person who might help her. "This is stupid," Sophia said, but she let Ria into her car anyway. "If Matteo finds out, he'll be furious." "I know." Ria buckled in. "But I need to see this. I need to know if I was right. And if you're wrong? If this gets people killed? Then I'll live with that. But I won't sit in a mansion while other people fight battles I helped start." Sophia studied her in the rearview mirror. "You're braver than you look, nurse." "I'm terrified," Ria admitted. "There's a difference." They drove to Newark in silence. The warehouse district was industrial wasteland, abandoned factories, empty lots, the skeleton of old America rusting away. Sophia parked 3 blocks away. "You stay in the car. Windows up, doors locked. Anything goes wrong, you drive away. Keys are in the ignition." "I don't know how to drive. Tonight's a good night to learn." She left her there, disappearing into the darkness. Ria sat in the passenger seat, her heart hammering, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. The warehouse was lit by a single floodlight, casting harsh shadows. Matteo stood near the entrance, visible and vulnerable, bait for the trap. Rico was beside him, 20 years of loyalty and friendship, about to be tested. Ria checked her phone. 11:47 p.m. The shipment was supposedly arriving at midnight. At 11:52, Rico's phone buzzed. Ria saw him check it, saw his expression change. He said something to Matteo, gestured toward the far side of the building. Matteo nodded, and Rico walked away toward the shadows, toward a position that would put him behind Matteo's men when the Salvatore crew arrived, getting into position to attack from within. Ria's stomach dropped. She'd been right. God, she'd been right. At 11:58, the Salvatore crew came. 5 vehicles, at least 20 men, armed with automatic weapons. They surrounded the warehouse with military precision, cutting off escape routes. This wasn't a grab and run. This was an execution. The lead vehicle's door opened. A man stepped out, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. Alexei Salvatore himself. He'd come personally to watch Matteo die. "Marino," Alexei's voice echoed across the empty lot. "I know you're in there. Come out and maybe I'll make this quick." Matteo emerged from the warehouse, hands visible, seemingly unarmed. "Alexei, I'd say it's good to see you, but we both know that's a lie. You're supposed to be dead. Disappointed? Only that I have to kill you twice." Alexei raised his hand, and his men lifted their weapons. "Any last words?" "Just one." Matteo smiled. "Now." The night exploded with gunfire. Matteo's hidden men opened up from every angle, rooftops, windows, parked cars. The Salvatore crew scattered, returning fire. Chaos erupting. Alexei dove behind his vehicle, screaming orders. But something was wrong. Ria saw it immediately. Rico wasn't shooting at the Salvatore crew. He was aiming at Matteo's men, taking them down from behind. 3 men fell before anyone realized the threat was internal. "Rico!" Matteo's voice cut through the gunfire. Rico turned, his gun now pointed directly at Matteo. "Your father was weak," Rico said, voice carrying across the battlefield. "This organization needed new leadership. So you chose the Salvatore family? You chose traitors over family?" "I chose survival." Rico fired. Matteo moved, but not fast enough. The bullet caught his side, spinning him around. He went down, clutching his ribs. Ria didn't think, didn't plan, just acted. She was out of the car, running toward the warehouse, screaming Matteo's name. Sophia tried to grab her, but she was already past, driven by pure instinct. Rico saw her coming, swung his gun toward her. "The girl. Perfect. This is your fault, you know. You made him soft." He pulled the trigger. Click. Empty chamber. Rico's eyes widened. He reached for another magazine, but Ria was already there. She grabbed a piece of rebar from the ground, rusty, heavy, perfect, and swung with everything she had. The metal connected with Rico's wrist. Bones cracked. The gun flew from his hand. Rico lunged at her, but Ria was faster. She'd delivered food through the worst neighborhoods in New York. She'd survived combat zones in Afghanistan. She knew how to fight dirty. She went for his eyes, his throat anywhere vulnerable. Rico was bigger, stronger, trained, but he wasn't expecting a nurse to fight like she was possessed. He slammed her against a wall. Pain exploded through her back, but Ria had survived worse. She drove her knee into his gut, then grabbed his collar and headbutted him with everything she had. Rico staggered back, blood pouring from his nose. Then Matteo was there. He moved like death itself, wounded but unstoppable. His hand closed around Rico's throat, lifting him off the ground. 20 years, Matteo hissed. 20 years of brotherhood, and you sold us for what? Money? Fear? They had leverage, Rico choked, clawing at Matteo's grip. My daughter. You don't have a daughter. My sister's daughter. They threatened. They said they'd kill her if I didn't. You should have come to me. Matteo's voice broke slightly. I would have protected her, protected you both. Instead, you got my people killed. Matteo, please. Matteo's hand tightened. Rico's face turned purple. His struggles weakened. Don't, Ria said quietly. Matteo's eyes met hers. She saw the war inside him rage against mercy, justice against vengeance. Slowly, he lowered Rico to the ground. You're done, Matteo said. Finished. You'll tell me everything, every deal, every secret, every piece of information you sold. Then you'll disappear. If I ever see you again, mercy ends. Police sirens wailed in. The distance. The Salvatore crew had retreated. Alexei among them. His attack failed. Matteo's men secured the perimeter, tending to their wounded. Matteo turned to Ria, blood seeping through his shirt. The surgical site had completely reopened. I need to stop the bleeding, she said. Later, when we're not actively being shot at. If you lose consciousness, we're both dead. Matteo laughed, painful but genuine. You make a compelling argument. Ria worked fast. She packed the wound with cloth torn from her shirt, applied pressure, secured it with his belt. Not proper medical care, but enough to buy time. You shouldn't be here, Matteo said. You're welcome. Ria's voice was shaking. Now can we please leave before more people try to kill us? The custody case was dismissed on Monday, just as Matteo had promised. The recording of Rohan accepting bribes destroyed any chance of him getting full custody. He was lucky to keep supervised visitation rights. The Salvatore crew leaders were arrested, 23 people going to prison. Alexei got 15 years. Rico disappeared. Some said South America. Others said Matteo had him killed despite his promise. Ria chose not to ask. Detective Brennan and Detective Ortiz found themselves under internal affairs investigation for attempting to coerce a civilian and leaking protected information. And Matteo Romano kept his word. 6 months later, autumn had fully claimed Chicago. The leaves in Lincoln Park turned gold and crimson, and the morning air carried the crisp promise of winter. Ria stood in her apartment, her real apartment, the one she'd left 6 months ago, packing the last of the boxes. The safe house had been comfortable, but never home. A knock at the door. She checked the peephole habit, now, always checking, and opened it. Matteo stood in the hallway, wearing jeans and a leather jacket, instead of his usual expensive suits. He looked younger somehow. Healthier. The haunted exhaustion that had shadowed his eyes was gone. I hope I'm not interrupting, he said. Just packing. Come in. He entered carefully, taking in the modest space. Children's drawings on the fridge. Soccer trophies on the shelf. The comfortable chaos of a real home, so different from his estate's cold elegance. Coffee? Ria offered. Please. They sat at her small kitchen table, mugs warming their hands. Outside, the city hummed with morning traffic. Your stitches healed well, Ria observed. No complications? Thanks to an excellent nurse. Matteo smiled. I'm cleared for full activities. The doctors are amazed at my recovery. Military trauma care has its advantages. That's not what I meant. He set down his mug. I meant you. Not just the medical treatment, everything. Ria didn't know what to say to that. I came to make you an offer, Matteo continued. Not as a boss. Not as someone you're obligated to. Just as someone who's grateful. You already handled my legal problems. That was more than enough. That was justice. Rohan committed crimes. Vincent used him. I simply expedited consequences. Matteo leaned forward. What I'm offering now is different. Lifelong protection for you and Arjun. Not guards following you. Not restrictions on your life. Just the knowledge that if anyone threatens you, they answer to me. You go about your normal life. I stay in mine. But you're never vulnerable again. That sounds like a leash with a longer chain. It's insurance with no strings attached. His voice was earnest. Ria, you saved my life 3 times. You helped me root out traitors who would have destroyed everything. You asked for nothing in return. That's rare in my world. That deserves protection. Ria studied his face. The sincerity there, but also the loneliness. The same isolation she'd seen that first night when he'd confessed his exhaustion with pretending. I'll accept your protection, she said slowly. On conditions. Name them. First, Arjun never knows about your business. If he asks, you're a friend who works in import-export or something equally boring. Matteo nodded. Agreed. Second, no more manipulating my life. No lawyers I didn't hire. No fixing problems I didn't ask you to fix. I make my own decisions. Understood. Third, if I call and say I need help, medical emergency, threat, whatever, you respond. But otherwise, we have normal friendship. Coffee, conversations, no debt, no obligation, just friendship. Matteo's smile was soft. I can work with that. They shook hands. An agreement sealed, not with violence or money, but with mutual respect. The following Sunday, Ria brought Arjun to Matteo's new villa. The old estate was being rebuilt, but he'd purchased something smaller, warmer, less fortress, more home. Arjun had been nervous about meeting Mom's friend from the hospital, but the nervousness lasted about 5 minutes. Marco taught him card tricks. Sophia showed him pictures of her own kids. A guard named Tony turned out to have played college soccer and gave Arjun pointers. Ria watched from the terrace as her son played soccer in the garden, surrounded by reformed criminals who treated him like a beloved nephew. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt oddly right. He's a good kid, Matteo said, joining her with 2 glasses of wine. Smart, quick. You've raised him well. I've tried. You've succeeded. Matteo watched Arjun score a goal, his men cheering like it was the World Cup. Do you know what the difference is between us? Between my world and yours? About 1,000,000 laws and several moral boundaries? He laughed. Yes, that. But also this. You build things. I maintain them through fear. You create life. I navigate death. You saved me not because you had to, but because that's who you are. You could be that person too. No, I've made my choices. There's no redemption arc for someone like me. He turned to her. But maybe I can be better than I was. Make different choices going forward. Ria clinked her glass against his. That's all any of us can do. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Arjun play. The sun warmed their faces. The city sprawled below them, beautiful and brutal and full of possibility. Matteo Romano had been saved 3 times, twice from death, once from himself. And Ria Chaudhary had found something unexpected in the wreckage of violence. Genuine friendship forged in impossible circumstances. They weren't redeemed, they weren't transformed, but they were changed. And sometimes, that was enough. Arjun ran up, breathless and grinning. Mom, did you see? I scored 5 goals. I saw, champion. She hugged him close. This boy who'd survived his parents' divorce, a custody battle, and briefly living among criminals with his resilience intact. Can we come back next week? Tony says he'll teach me corner kicks. Ria looked at Matteo, who raised an eyebrow. The decision was hers. We'll see, she said, the answer parents give when they mean yes, but don't want to commit. Arjun cheered and ran back to the game. Thank you, Matteo said quietly. For what? For staying. For trusting me. For showing me what it means to have something worth protecting that isn't built on fear. Ria smiled. You're welcome. They'd both walked through fire and emerged scarred but standing. The brave single mom and the dying Mafia boss, now just 2 people trying to build something good from the ashes of violence. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real and honest, and theirs. And sometimes, that was the best kind of ending of all. What an incredible journey, from a life-saving blood donation to a dangerous underworld, to finally finding friendship in the most unlikely place. Did this story touch your heart? Then please, show your love by liking this video, sharing it with your friends and family, and subscribing to our channel for more amazing stories. Drop a comment below telling us, would you have made the same choices as Ria? Would you have saved Matteo's life knowing what it would cost? Thank you so much for watching until the very end. You're amazing. See you in the next story. Until then, stay safe and keep believing in the power of kindness, even when it comes with complications.